Today is day 1 of my journey to becoming a professional Overwatch 2 player at 27 years old. 100 days. That's how long I've been pursuing my dream of becoming a pro Overwatch player. Day 200 of my journey to becoming a competitor in the Overwatch Champions Series. Day 297 of my journey to competing in the Overwatch Champions Series. How do you know these? Well, it's over now. Let's talk about why. In case you didn't know, for the past 300 days, I have been on a journey to competing in the Overwatch Champions Series. As of now, I'm abandoning all of the time I have invested into the game and content created, and this video is going to cover all of the questions you may have. If you're only interested in one question out of the many that would come, check the chapters on this video to see the part you may be looking for. For a little background, I started creating content in January of 2018 with the goal of being a positive light in the gaming space. After struggling for several years creating content that wasn't super unique, I finally took a break in early 2023 to come up with new ideas. During this time, I chose to consider the content I enjoyed consuming and use that to spark some creativity to incorporate into my own content. As I've shared before, there was this guy named Jordan on TikTok who was sharing his journey of taking an ice bath every single day. I had just discovered Overwatch 2 the previous year in November and enjoyed it as a replacement for my previous shooter game I enjoyed, Apex Legends. Coming back to 2023, in May specifically, I was out for a walk with my family, and this idea that many of you now know as my journey to the Overwatch Champions Series was born. As things progressed, I peaked Masters 5 on support as a Baptiste and on a main. About at this point, the game started to feel very stale for me, and I decided to try swapping roles. In January of 2024, I became a tank player, and I felt like I had a fresh take on the game as a whole and made it more enjoyable. However, this only lasted for a couple of months, and I decided I was just missing consistent teammates. Combine that need with a lot of folks encouraging me to join or create a scrim team, I chose to create one, and we called it Hopium. Over the next several months, my enjoyment for Overwatch 2 drastically dwindled. As you could probably imagine, people could tell that I wasn't enjoying myself anymore, and many folks, in a loving way, suggested that I either take a break from the game or quit. Admittedly, I didn't want to swallow my pride and admit what felt like failure by quitting. Right around this time, Marvel Rivals came out and split the already massively divided Overwatch player base. I decided to commit to Overwatch 2 because I've seen hype trains like Marvel Rivals before. Like I said earlier, I started creating content in 2018, right as Fortnite was beginning to rise to popularity. Most of my smaller creator friends I knew at the time didn't succeed, and many of them don't create content anymore because they went all in on Fortnite's hype. I also started to defend Overwatch 2 because I truly love this game and I want it to be fun. So I pushed through and chalked it up to just needing more self-discipline. I also genuinely wanted to fight for what I believe the game could be. During a conversation with some of the members of my Discord community, I shared this, and one of them pointed out this is kind of like being in an abusive relationship. Oh, I can change them, don't worry. Yikes. So the straw that finally broke the camel's back, metaphorically speaking, was the 10+ minute queue on tank I had in Platinum. This was my first factually based sign that Overwatch may actually be dying. People have a tendency to overhype the idea of a game dying, and Overwatch unfortunately has been in the crosshairs of those kinds of allegations for a very long time. Perhaps if we were able to zoom out and look at the player count average over time, we could actually see it dwindle, but I don't believe that has drastically started until more recently. Going back to what I was saying though, tank is the least popular role in this game by far, and this alone guarantees short queue times typically. Add to that fact that I'm in low platinum, I was smack in the middle of the majority of the player base. These two things together mean that I should always have a pretty short queue time, and if 10 minutes is short, that's not good. Essentially, it seems that Overwatch's popularity has been declining for a while, but just took a really hard nosedive after Marvel Rivals was released. Consequently, the Overwatch esports scene is slowly dying, and it doesn't seem like it has much hope of a long-term future. Don't even get me started on my criticisms of Blizzard not releasing PvE as they promised for Overwatch 2. And as far as I'm aware, they've never accepted ownership for making that mistake. I mean, you gotta be real too. Even some of the OG die-hard Overwatch creators like Flats have all but abandoned this game. And this game was what brought him to his popularity, largely speaking. You probably won't be too surprised to hear what's next for my channel. From this video forward, I am pursuing competing in Marvel Rivals. Rivals is far from perfect, but I never enjoyed Overwatch as much as I do Rifles. Honestly, I didn't even want to admit this because in an odd way, it felt like cheating while I've been on my OWCS journey. Now that I've broken up with Overwatch, I think I've healed enough to move on. Rivals is also newer, so I'm not nearly as behind in hours invested as I was in Overwatch. The game is wildly popular right now, and I know how to make great content that stands out. My understanding of hero shooters that I have from Overwatch will bring some great assets for me off the rip, and most importantly, I'll be laughing more while I'm playing. I do want to say a few thank yous to those that have helped me throughout this OWCS journey. First, huge thank you to God for giving me the drive to push ever forward, to my wonderful bride for being so wildly supportive of my crazy dreams, to Coach Cuffy, Travis, Wizard, Pugs, and Infected for the time spent helping me improve, to Flats and Emon for reacting to my content and helping put me on the radar of the Overwatch community really early in my journey. Last and certainly not least, to the community of folks who've cheered me on. That's you. Especially if you've made it to this point in the video. Being completely real with you, I never believed I would have any kind of a following until after I made it to my goal. I figured after my goal was met, people would go back and watch the journey, figure out how I got there. While I still think that's true, I am absolutely blown away at the community we've been able to build in the meantime. So together, let's make this content go to the next level and start my journey to becoming a professional Marvel Rivals player. If you want to see this journey from the beginning, make sure that you're subscribed. If you choose to unsubscribe because Marvel Rivals isn't for you, or you just were super invested in Overwatch, just know that I'm thankful for any amount of time you spent consuming this content.